The rain was heavy in New Terra City. It hit the metal streets like falling stones. Shops were closing, lights were dimming, and only the sound of thunder echoed through the lower district. Leon, a human food seller, stood behind his small food stall. He was packing up the leftovers, stacking bowls, and locking the front. The day had been slow, and he was ready to go home. Then he heard a soft thud. It didn't sound like trash or something falling. It sounded like someone had collapsed. He looked around, confused, then stepped out into the rain, and there she was, a woman, not human. Lying in the mud near the edge of his stall, her skin was light blue, glowing faintly under the rain. Her clothes were torn and soaked, sticking to her thin body. Her long white hair was tangled, and her arms were wrapped around a small bundle. A child. Leon froze. The child wasn't crying, just shaking. Eyes closed, face pale and sunken. The woman tried to lift her head. Struggling to speak, Leon rushed to her side and knelt down. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked. The woman's lips trembled, and her voice came out broken and soft. "Please, feed my daughter," she said. Leon looked closer at the bundle. It was a small girl, maybe 5 or 6. And she wasn't moving much. "She hasn't eaten in 3 days," the woman whispered. "I have nothing left except my body." Leon stared at her, unsure if he heard right. The woman slowly looked up, her eyes full of tears, glowing gold with pain and shame. "Tonight, my body is yours, human. Just feed her, please." Leon's breath caught. He looked around, no one else was there. Just him, the rain, the shaking girl, and this broken woman. This wasn't a joke. It wasn't some scam. She was serious. He stood up quickly, not answering. He opened the stall again, turned the heater on, and grabbed a clean blanket. Then he bent down, carefully took the child from her mother's arms, and carried her inside. The child was so light, it felt like carrying paper. "Come inside," he said to the woman. She didn't move at first. She just stared at the ground, as if afraid. Then, slowly, she crawled forward, each movement stiff and painful. Leon stepped out again and helped her walk. She was cold. So cold, it made his fingers sting just from touching her. He placed the child on a bench inside the stall, wrapped her in the blanket, and took out some leftover soup. He warmed it fast and brought the bowl to the girl. She opened her eyes weakly. And when the smell reached her nose, her little hand twitched. She started eating slowly, then faster, as if afraid it would be taken away. She didn't speak a word, just kept eating with shaking hands. The mother sat silently across the room. She didn't ask for food, didn't even look at it. Her eyes stayed on her daughter. Leon noticed her lips moving without sound. She was whispering something, maybe a prayer, maybe a thank you. Leon brought her a towel and a cup of water. She took the water slowly, but left the towel untouched. Her head stayed down, her back still shaking slightly. Leon didn't speak. He didn't know what to say. Minutes passed. The child finished the soup and slowly fell asleep with the bowl still in her lap. Leon covered her properly with a blanket and sighed. He turned to the woman. "What's your name?" he asked. The woman looked up, her eyes clearer now. "My name is Sari," she said. "And her name is Linya." Leon nodded. "All right, Sari," he said. "You and your daughter can stay here tonight. I'm not taking anything from you. Not your body, not your promises, just rest." Sari blinked, confused. She tried to speak, but couldn't. Tears fell down her cheeks again, but this time they were quiet. She bowed her head, hiding her face. For the first time in weeks, someone had shown her mercy. Leon sat down across from her, resting his arms on his knees. He didn't ask questions, not yet. He just watched the two, mother and daughter, broken but alive. Outside, the rain kept falling, but inside the small food stall, warmth had returned, even if just for one night. Morning came slowly. The rain had stopped. But the streets of New Terra City were still wet and dark. Inside the small food stall, the lights buzzed softly. Leon sat in a chair, sipping cold coffee, watching the small alien girl sleeping under a blanket. Her breathing was slow but steady now. The mother, Sari, hadn't moved all night. She had sat in the same spot. Arms folded, back straight, head down, like a soldier on guard duty. But her eyes had never left her daughter. Not even once. Leon stood and stretched, bones cracking. He walked to the back of the stall and grabbed a fresh bowl. He poured soup into it, warmed it up, and carried it to the table. "You didn't eat anything last night," he said, placing the bowl in front of her. Sari didn't answer. Her fingers twitched, but she didn't move. "I didn't ask for it," she whispered finally. Leon sighed and pulled out a second chair, sitting across from her. "You don't need to offer anything to earn food here," he said. She lifted her eyes slowly, surprised. "I don't want charity," she said, voice stiff. "It's not charity," Leon replied. "It's human decency." They sat in silence for a few moments. Then Sari reached for the bowl with shaking hands and took a small sip. She closed her eyes, as if trying to remember what real food felt like. Leon waited, letting her take her time. When she was halfway through, he finally spoke again. "What happened to you two?" he asked. Sari kept her eyes on the bowl, but her face darkened. "We escaped," she said, voice barely a whisper. "From where?" Leon asked. "Kreze," she answered. "Mining camp. Underground." Full of slaves, Leon frowned. He had heard of Kreze. It was a mining moon, owned by one of the largest galactic corporations. But he thought it was automated, not full of slaves. "I fought back," Sari continued, one of the guards. "He hit Linya hard." She gritted her teeth, her hands trembling as she spoke. "I attacked him, clawed his face. They tried to kill me on the spot." Leon's jaw tightened. "So you ran," he said. Sari nodded slowly. "Through tunnels. Through garbage ships. We hid in a storage crate for 2 days." Her voice cracked. Linya didn't speak the whole time. "I thought I'd lose her." Leon looked over at the girl, still asleep under the blanket. The image of her small hands gripping the soup bowl came back to him. She had looked so fragile, so empty. "Why did you come to New Terra?" he asked. "Rumors," Sari said. "They say humans here. They sometimes help, but I had no money, no food. Only my body," she whispered, looking away in shame. Leon leaned back, feeling a strange ache in his chest. He had seen a lot in this city: crime, hunger, lies, but nothing like this. She had offered herself not to survive, but for her child. That kind of love scared him more than any weapon. Sari suddenly asked, "Why didn't you take what I offered?" Leon blinked, caught off guard. He looked her in the eye and said, "Because I'm not that kind of man." She looked down again, silent. "No one's ever refused before," she whispered. Leon stood up and walked to a cabinet. He opened it and pulled out a small container with medical supplies. He walked back and handed her a healing patch. "You need to take care of yourself too," he said. She hesitated, then took it with a slow nod. At that moment, Linya stirred. She opened her eyes and looked around, then at her mother. Sari rushed over and knelt beside her. Linya whispered something in a soft voice, and Sari smiled gently. Leon watched from a distance. There was something peaceful in that small moment. After a while, Linya sat up and saw Leon. She stared at him for a long time, then said in a tiny voice, "Thank you." Leon smiled and gave a small wave. "Any time, kid," he replied. The stall was quiet again, but it didn't feel cold anymore. Sari helped Linya drink some water, then laid her back down to rest. Leon knew their safety wouldn't last forever, but for now, they had food, warmth, and a little hope as he turned back to clean the counter. A strange feeling settled in his heart. This wasn't just kindness anymore. He was part of something bigger, something he didn't understand yet. But one thing was clear: he couldn't let them go back to the life they came from. Not now, not ever. Night returned to New Terra with a silent chill. The upper towers were full of lights and noise, but the lower streets stayed quiet and dark. Inside the food stall, Leon lay on a small cot behind the kitchen wall. He had given Sari and Linya the main room. Where it was warmer, he tried to sleep, but his thoughts were spinning. He kept hearing Sari's words in his head. "I have nothing left except my body." No one should have to say that. No one. He turned on his side. But something made him freeze. A soft beep, a sound he knew well: motion sensor. He sat up fast and checked the small screen on the wall. Outside, a heat signature was moving near the entrance. Too fast, too careful, this wasn't a lost traveler. Leon grabbed a metal pipe he kept nearby and quietly stepped outside. Rain had started again, light this time. He walked slowly, footsteps silent on the wet ground. Then he saw him, a tall figure in a dark cloak, crouched near the food stall's door. He was holding a scanning device, its screen glowing blue. Leon's heart jumped. He had seen those before. Heat scanners, often used by bounty hunters. Leon stepped forward and raised his pipe. "Back off," he said sharply. The figure turned fast, surprised. A flash of silver, a small gun pointed at Leon's chest, but Leon didn't back down. "You don't want trouble," Leon said, eyes locked on the hunter's face. The figure paused, then lowered the weapon slowly. "I don't want trouble either," the man said. "But there's a reward for a certain alien woman and child. Have you seen them?" Leon's heart pounded, but his face stayed calm. "Lots of aliens pass through this district," he replied. "Most of them are hungry, not criminals." The hunter stepped closer, narrowing his eyes. "This one's different," he said. "She's got markings under her skin, royal blood. The bounty doesn't ask for capture, only confirmation. Kill on sight." Leon's hands tightened around the pipe. "Not here," he said coldly. "You'll find nothing here." The hunter gave him a long look, then stepped back. He clicked his scanner off and turned away. Disappearing into the alley, Leon stood in the rain for a moment, breathing hard. Then he went back inside and locked the door tight. Inside, Sari was already awake. She stood by the window, her eyes wide with fear. "You saw him," she whispered. Leon nodded. "Hunter, scanning for heat signatures." She sat down slowly, her legs weak. Leon crouched beside her. "There's something you haven't told me," he said softly. "Something important." Sari looked at him, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "I wasn't just a slave," she said. "I was a princess once, long ago. Before my people lost everything, they wiped out our cities, broke our families, turned us into workers." Leon listened without a word. She touched her wrist and showed him a thin, glowing line beneath the skin. "It's a genetic brand. Proof of royal blood," she said. "They're afraid we'll rise again, so they hunt us. My daughter, Linya, she carries the same mark." Leon sat back, stunned. "That's why they're not just chasing you, they want you dead," he said. Sari nodded. "We escaped because I knew they'd kill her first. She's small, but she's more important than anyone knows." Leon stood and walked in circles, thinking fast. If the bounty was re-land, it was then more hunters would come. And they wouldn't ask questions first. He looked at Sari and Linya. Both too tired to run anymore, they needed protection, and he couldn't just turn away now. "Pack what you have," Leon said. "We're leaving this stall tonight." Sari looked at him, surprised. "Where will we go?" Leon took a deep breath. "To the underground," he said. "Old friends, old contacts, people who owe me favors. They won't find you there." Linya woke up, rubbing her eyes. Sari picked her up gently and kissed her forehead. Leon grabbed a small backpack and filled it with food, water, medicine. He looked at the stall one last time. It had been his whole world, but now it felt small. This wasn't about soup and chairs anymore. It was about survival as they stepped into the rainy street. Sari placed a hand on his arm. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. Leon looked down at her and said, "I do now." They vanished into the shadows, a human, an alien mother, and her daughter, running from hunters. Running from death, but for the first time, they weren't running alone. They moved through narrow alleys in the dead of night. Rain still fell, but lighter now. The streets of New Terra were mostly empty, except for broken lights and sleeping machines. Leon led the way, his coat pulled tight, eyes watching every corner. Behind him, Sari carried Linya in her arms. Wrapped in a blanket, the child was quiet, but her eyes were open now. Blinking slowly as the city passed by, she didn't cry, didn't speak, just held on to her mother's tunic. Leon had never seen a kid so silent. It broke something inside him. They reached a large gate covered in rust, hidden behind old supply crates. Leon knocked twice, paused, then knocked 3 times. A metal panel slid open, revealing a camera. A voice crackled through the speaker, low and rough. "Who's crawling in at this hour?" Leon leaned forward. "It's me, Leon." Silence. Then the door groaned open, revealing a dark stairwell. Leon turned to Sari and nodded. "Stay close." They entered the old tunnel system, what people called the underground, a maze of abandoned metro lines, basements, and old war bunkers. Most people didn't even know it still existed, but Leon did. He had once been part of the resistance back during the final war between humans and the machines. When it ended, he walked away, tired of death. But now he was walking back into the darkness, not for himself, but for them. They were greeted by a woman with half her face made of silver plating. Her eye glowed red as she scanned them. "Leon," she said, her voice metallic. "You brought guests," he nodded. "I need safe shelter for them." The woman looked at Sari and Linya carefully. Sari didn't flinch, didn't hide. She stood tall. Even though her body was still weak, the woman raised an eyebrow. "Royal blood," she whispered. Leon's eyes narrowed. "You recognize it?" The woman nodded. "Yeah, and so will others." She led them deeper into the tunnels. Through twisting paths and broken gates, they passed old soldiers with robotic arms, alien merchants hiding from debts, children born in the dark. It was a strange community, but it was home for many who had nowhere else to go. In one room, a large space lit by blue lamps, the woman stopped. "You can stay here," she said. "But Leon, this isn't a favor. It's a debt being paid." Leon nodded once. "I know." They settled in the room, an old train car converted into living space. Sari laid Linya on a soft mattress and covered her gently. Leon took off his coat, hung it over the broken rail, and finally sat down with a sigh. Sari looked around, unsure. "This place? Is it safe?" Leon nodded, "As safe as any place can be in this galaxy." She sat beside him, her eyes tired but grateful. Later that night, others came, aliens and humans, curious about the newcomers. One brought warm tea. Another brought old toys for Linya. The little girl held a small stuffed animal and gave a shy smile. Leon saw it and felt something shift in his chest. Sari noticed too. She hasn't smiled in days, she said softly. Leon looked at her. "Then maybe we're doing something right." The woman with the silver face returned. "There's news," she said. "More bounty hunters entered the city. Word is the reward's been raised." Sari tensed, but Leon stood calmly. "Let them come," he said. "I've dealt with worse." The silver-faced woman smirked. "Still got that fire? Ha." Leon shrugged. Some debts never really fade. She gave him a long look. then left without a word. Later that night, while Linya slept peacefully, Sari sat near a lamp, repairing a torn piece of clothing. Leon handed her a mug of hot broth. She accepted it and whispered, "Thank you for not asking me to pay." Leon sat beside her. "You already did by trusting me." She looked at him, her eyes full of something quiet and deep. "You could have left us," she said. "I almost did," Leon admitted. "But then I saw her face, and yours." I couldn't walk away. They sat in silence again. But this time it wasn't awkward. It was calm, almost peaceful. Two broken souls finding warmth in a world that had none. And somewhere deep in the tunnels, while others whispered, watched, and waited, a human, an alien mother. And her silent daughter began to rebuild something long forgotten, a feeling called family. The night was quiet in the underground, but above, in the city shadows, danger was moving. 3 bounty hunters cold, fast, and silence slipped through the dark alleys of New Terra. They had heat scanners, plasma pistols, and one goal: kill the alien woman and her child. One of them found a trace. A child's small footprint near the back entrance of an old metro gate. Another scanned it. Eyes narrowing, "She's here," he said. Voice sharp, "And she's not alone. Back underground." Linya was playing with a toy soldier someone had given her. Her soft laugh echoed in the metal room. It was the first time Sari had heard her daughter laugh since the escape. Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them away. She wanted to stay strong for her child. Leon sat nearby, repairing an old blaster rifle with missing parts. He didn't trust peace for too long. Peace in a place like this always meant something was about to go wrong. Then it happened. The power lights flickered once, then again. A silent alarm blinked red above the door. Leon's eyes shot up, his voice calm but firm. "Get down, both of you." Sari grabbed Linya and pulled her behind a broken crate. Leon rolled behind a table, grabbing his half-fixed rifle. The door burst open with a metal scream. Blaster fire lit up the room. Red and blue flashes bouncing off the walls. Leon fired back, the gun shaking in his hands. He hit one of the bounty hunters in the leg, making him drop with a cry. The second one ducked and fired again, hitting the lamp and sending sparks flying. Smoke filled the room. Sari held Linya close. Shielding her with her own body, she whispered, "Don't move, baby. Just breathe." The third bounty hunter spotted them and raised his weapon. But before he could fire, Leon tackled him from behind. They rolled on the floor, fists hitting metal. Leon's shoulder burned where he had been grazed by a blaster. He gritted his teeth and grabbed the man's gun, slamming it against the wall. A blast went off and hit a power unit, causing a small explosion. Flames rose quickly, lighting up the narrow hallway. The silver-faced woman arrived just in time with 2 underground guards. They opened fire, taking down the second bounty hunter. The last one tried to escape, but Sari stepped out, eyes glowing with fury. She raised her hand, and from her fingers, strange white energy crackled like lightning. It hit the man square in the chest, lifting him off the ground and slamming him against the far wall. He dropped like a stone. Everyone stared, even Leon. Sari stood, shaking, breathing hard. Linya clung to her legs, eyes wide. Leon stepped closer. "That was new," he said. Sari looked down at her hands, still glowing faintly. "I didn't know I could still do that." She whispered. The silver-faced woman checked the bodies and nodded. "They'll send more," she said flatly. Leon wiped blood from his forehead. "Then we move again." "No," said the woman. "This place is ours. We fight here." They sealed the doors, cleaned up the mess, and treated Leon's shoulder. Linya stayed quiet again. The fear returning to her face, Sari rocked her gently, singing a soft song in a language no one understood. Later that night, Leon sat beside her. He placed a hand on her arm. "You saved us," he said. Sari nodded. "I wasn't going to. Let them hurt her." Leon smiled weakly. "You've got fire in you." "I've got scars," she replied. "But maybe fire too." He looked at her carefully. "Back there. You used energy like I've only seen in stories." Sari nodded. "My people were warriors once. They buried our gifts, made us forget, but pain brings it back." Linya had fallen asleep in her arms, her tiny body finally resting. Sari brushed the girl's hair away from her face. "She's all I have," she said quietly. Leon leaned closer. "You have more now. You have me for a long time." Sari didn't speak, but she didn't pull away. The fire in the alley had shaken them all, but it had also changed something deeper. A bond was forming, real, unspoken, and strong. They had bled together, fought together, survived together. And in that moment, without saying it, they understood something simple but powerful. They weren't strangers anymore. They were family now. The fire in the alley had passed, but its smoke remained in the minds of those who lived in the underground. Word of the attack spread fast. 3 bounty hunters dead. One of them burned beyond recognition. Some whispered about the alien mother with powers in her hands. Others whispered more carefully about the human who stood in the way and refused to run. Leon became something more than a food seller that week. He became a wall between the hunters and the hunted, between those who had power and those who had nothing left. He worked day and night, reinforcing the bunker's gates, rewiring the motion sensors. He gathered food from his contacts above, sold his stall, and burned the registry of his name. He didn't want any trails leading back to them. Sari offered to help, and though she was weak, she worked with quiet focus. She had seen too many people vanish from her life. She didn't want Leon to become one of them in the tunnels below. Something unexpected began to happen. People started coming. Other aliens who had run from camps, orphan children, injured workers. They had heard whispers of a human who protected a royal alien and her child. Some came to see if it was true. Some came because they were desperate. Leon accepted them all. With each new face, the small underground shelter began to grow. Rooms were carved deeper into the stone. Pipes rerouted, heat recycled. It was no longer a hiding place. It was turning into a home. Sari watched him from a distance sometimes, the way he carried heavy boxers, helped the sick, listened to every story. He didn't speak much about his past, but it showed in his scars and his calm eyes. He had been through war, pain, and betrayal. Yet here he was, building something better. Not for himself, but for others. One evening, as the soft lights flickered above the hallway, Sari approached him. She held a small metal pin in her hand. Shaped like a spiral, her people's ancient symbol of unity. "I want you to have this," she said. Leon looked at it, confused. "This is royal," he said. "It's from your family." Sari nodded. "Yes. But you've done more for me and Linya than any royal ever did. You stood between me and death. You gave us dignity again." Leon slowly took the pin, holding it like it might break. "I didn't do it for a symbol," he said. "I did it because no one else did." They stood in silence, the hum of underground power lines around them. Then Sari smiled, a real smile, full of strength and something more, trust for her. That smile meant the past hadn't won. It meant there was still life after pain. Linya was also changing. She began talking more, laughing more, running through the halls with other children. She drew pictures of her mother and Leon. In every drawing, they stood side by side, holding her hands. One night she asked, "Mama, are we safe now?" Sari pulled her close and whispered, "As long as he's with us, yes." But not everyone was happy about the growing shelter. From the shadows above, the bounty syndicates began to watch closely. Too many targets were disappearing. Too many. Whispers of a human protector rising below. A new price was placed not just for Sari, but for Leon too, dead or alive. Leon knew it would happen one night while sharpening tools. The silver-faced woman came to him. "They've named you," she said. "They've marked your face. You're no longer just helping now. You're the enemy." Leon didn't flinch. He just nodded and said, "Then let them come." Sari overheard, her heart tightening. Later, she sat beside him on the ledge above the sleeping quarters. The soft hum of machinery below, the smell of oil and stone in the air. She looked at him, her voice soft. "You're not one of us. But you chose us." Leon looked back, tired but steady. "I didn't choose sides," he said. "I chose people." Sari reached for his hand, and this time he didn't pull away. They sat there together. In the heart of the underground, a warrior mother with power in her blood. A human man with fire in his soul, and between them, the bond of something rare: respect without demand, love without need. Above them, the surface city was preparing for another hunt. But down below, a different kind of force was rising. Not one made of weapons, but of will. And at the center of it all was a man who once sold soup. Now known by another name whispered through the shadows. The human who stood between worlds. It had been 2 weeks since the last bounty hunter dared step into the underground. Their syndicate had lost too many men, and the price of failure was rising. Above ground, the city remained loud and uncaring. But below, something quiet and beautiful had taken root. Linya now played freely in the tunnels, her soft laughter echoing like light in the dark. The others had started calling her Little Flame for the way she warmed hearts with every smile. Sari, her mother, had changed too. She no longer kept her head down or stood in corners. She had taken charge of the medical bay, helping the sick, healing wounds, and teaching children basic first aid. But her eyes still searched for Leon whenever he left, and her heart still skipped when he returned. Leon had built more than walls and gates. He had built hope. He moved through the tunnels like a steady fire. Not fast, not loud, but always warm. He spoke with the lost, shared food with the hungry, and trained the young in basic defense. But he never spoke about his future. One evening, after checking the power grid, he returned to his bunk. Linya was waiting outside his door, holding something in her hands. "Uncle Leon," she said, smiling brightly, "I made this." She held up a paper drawing 3 figures, holding hands, standing under stars. One was small, the other too tall. Leon knelt down and looked at it. "Is this us?" he asked gently. Linya nodded. "Mama says families are made by love, not blood." Leon blinked, his throat suddenly tight. He reached out and hugged her, not saying a word. Later that night, Sari came to him. She wore a long cloak, clean and warm, her hair braided softly down her back. She stood silently by his door, her fingers shaking slightly. Leon looked up from his workbench, surprised to see her dressed like that. "You going somewhere?" he asked softly. "No," she whispered. "I'm coming back." He frowned, confused. She stepped closer, her eyes shining with courage and fear at the same time. "I once said I had nothing left but my body," she said. "You remember that night?" Leon nodded slowly. "I offered it to you, thinking that's all I was worth," she continued. "But you didn't take it. You gave us food, shelter, safety, and dignity." She took a deep breath and looked straight into his eyes. "So tonight, I offer it again," she said, "but not as payment. This time, it comes with something else, my heart." Leon stood still, the air between them silent and heavy. He stepped forward slowly and gently took her hands. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "I never wanted your body. I just wanted you to believe you were more than what they made you feel." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I do believe now," she whispered, "because of you." He touched her face softly, brushing the tears away. "You're not broken. Sorry," he said. "You're the strongest person I've ever met." She leaned into him, her forehead resting against his. "I'm tired of being strong," she said softly. "Just for one night, I want to be soft and safe." Leon pulled her into his arms, and for the first time, there were no guards between them. No walls, no debts, no shame, only two hearts. Finding warmth in a cold galaxy? Later. They sat together, wrapped in the same blanket. The lights were dim. The sound of machines humming like a lullaby. Sari rested her head on his chest, listening to the beat of something steady and real. "You're not just our protector now," she whispered. "You're our home." Leon kissed her forehead gently. "And you're my reason," he replied. In the following days, the underground began to shift again. More people came, not just refugees, but volunteers, builders, traders, even former soldiers. They didn't come for gold or glory. They came because they had heard a story. The story of an alien woman with fire in her hands. A human who turned away from profit and picked up purpose. A child who survived hunger and fear to smile again. They came because hope had a name now, and it was built by three people who had nothing except love, and deep beneath the city, where light rarely reached, that love shone like a star, not loud, not grand, but steady, and that was enough to change everything.